Hi.
Hello, hello, everyone.
Hello.
Sorry about the time confusion. Still thought we had about 20
Hi.
minutes. Hi again.
Sorry, I have my camera off. I'm all sweaty mess, but
And hi, Lisa. And I'm fine if you guys keep your camera off. It won't bother me at all. I won't be offended.
you like to talk to yourself.
I just totally like talking to myself. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it is. Called me out. Busted. All right. I'm gonna pull up my presentation.
So Katie and Mignon, I don't know that you've had the pleasure of meeting Sheree. She is our like corporate coach and the one that tells us all the things and is amazing.
Oh, well, thanks. I'll give you guys a little background about myself. So, I worked for our top franchise owner in Tucson, Arizona for 10 years. So, I started with her when she first, she's like 6 months into her business. So, kind of exactly where Kat, and Lisa are right now, right? And I primarily focused with her on her in-person estate sale realm. I started off part-time, like on her relo side, but I was not the right fit for that side of the team. But the estate sale side, that's totally up my alley. It was my groove. And so I really thrived there and really helped her develop and grow her business to what it is today, even still. So she's still sitting at number one. She's probably been holding that spot for about 14 years running. My team, myself, it was only about five. I fluctuated between five people on my team or six people, which included me, myself as well. So I was a part of the team working in the grind with everyone. I personally find that that's the way to get the best production out of your team is with your managers working with them one on one. Kind of, showing them how it's done instead of pointing and telling them sort of like from behind the scenes or whatnot. Um, Myself and my team, just in 2018, 2019, right before I ended up quitting, I quit in 2020 with her. We had just hit a little over $1 million just in our in-person estate sale sales alone, right? So that wasn't combined with any online auction sales or anything like that. So estate sales can be very profitable, in my opinion. When I was doing online auctions, my commission checks were never the same as they were, personally, like from the estate sale side. Let me get my dogs out of here real quick. Okay, so it took us about, I started with her about 2011, 2012, and by 2018, my team had hit $1 million in gross sales for estate sales. So I think they're super valuable if they're done right. There is a method to the madness, right? In-person estate sales can be very time consuming and labor absorbent if you're not doing things properly, right? So there is a order of operations that needs to be upheld. For me, my team understood I had a three touch rule. So if you didn't want me to be crazy, spit and fire at you, really you needed to keep those touches for these items under three touches. And it really just boils back down to like we can only charge X amount of money to get these sales ready, right? If we charge exactly what we need to charge for per labor hour worked, we'd never get any liquidations. I mean, that's to be completely honest with you. And that's just because we have to weigh out the cost value of getting the sale ready versus the return value on what the sale is going to produce. So we can't throw out there a number of, $6,000 to prep a house and then still on top of that take a 35-40% commission and expect the clients to want to buy into that kind of a business deal, right? And so really it does fall back onto the teams to be the most efficient, productive, get in and get out, right? And so just to put into perspective for you, we used to do two estate sales on Saturday. And then every now and then, maybe like two times a month, we would do what we called a flash sale on Fridays. So there were weeks where my little team of five or six people We would start at a house on Monday, and by Thursday at 4 p.m., we had to be done by the with the second house, the second estate sale house by 4 p.m. so our photographer could come photograph it and so we could advertise it. So we were processing 2 to 3 houses between Monday and Thursday. Okay. And the only way you can do that is by being efficient, right? Not doing things out of an order, touching things more than necessary, right? I used to stress to my team, do things with intention, have a purpose behind it, right? So don't just think right now, this is in my way right now. I'm going to move this item right now because it's in my way. Think 10 steps down the line. Think 20 steps down the line. Am I moving this item for it to be in my way 5 steps from now? Like, if that's what you're doing, that is going to be problematic, right?
Mhm.
I used to joke with my team, like, if I could just put you in a room, shut the door and lock it, I would literally do that just so I could keep you in one area instead of like bouncing around from room to room. So I'm going to walk you guys through how I used to train my team in sort of our order of operations to hopefully prepare you guys for your in-person estate sale that you guys are going to do next week or you guys are going to get started with. Does anybody have any questions like right now that you want to just throw on my radar so I can make sure I kind of answer them or cover it? If not, we can, just get into it. If you guys have questions as we go, just interrupt me and butt in.
Yeah, no, nothing from me. That sounds good.
Okay.
Super helpful already.
Okay. Perfect. So we're going to talk a little. Let me back up one slide here because, all right. So we're going to just talk a little bit about what an in-person estate sale is, right? So, and I'm speaking just from like what we were doing out here. So Kat might do things just slightly different for you guys, but for us, it was, the sales setup day. So that's going to be your tasks and what those tasks are entailing. Ah, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. What those tasks are entailing for you guys. Okay. So on sale day, we would hang up bulk pricing signs to help with some of the pricing, right? So we weren't pricing every single thing in the houses. Some things that we weren't pricing would be like clothing and accessories, books and media. There was some garage items that we weren't pricing, like extension cords and plastic totes. In the office, we were kind of not pricing board games and some office supplies, those things like 3-ring binders and stuff. We would just kind of have those bulk prices on these sheets. And that's what we did for those in-person sale days. For the checkout station, when you guys are like setting up for the sale day exactly, we would set up our checkout station outside, right? You got to think about the line, right? So when people go to check out, how are they going to check out? What's that going to look like? And what's that going to feel like for your customers while they're shopping, right? Because we don't want to interfere with the shopping that's happening with inside the house. So for us, we're in Arizona, so our weather is pretty permittable all the time, except for like a couple months in the summer. So we would always set up our checkout station out front. We only had one entrance point and one exit point. So that was always the front door because aesthetically it was always the best to come into. We never wanted to open up the garage and go in through the garage. It's not like the best first impression usually. And so we would set up the checkout station outside. So when that line starts to snake, because it's gonna start to snake, it's not blocking like the hallway or sort of like those pathways inside the house, right? It's not going to make the house feel more cluttered and clustered. We would set up holding tables outside by the register as well, right? So that would look like, depending on how much stuff we had in the house, anywhere from like 4 to 6, like 6-foot tables. Okay. And this is the section where once the customers are inside and they're shopping, we would have employees posted in every room, right? Or every other room, kind of, essentially. And so those, not customers, employees. So those employees are helping all the customers, right? They're answering any questions. They're writing tickets for them, right? So all of the items that they're wanting to purchase, we would have the staff put those items on a sales ticket. They're carbon copied sales tickets, right? So we would write on the top copy, the white copy, and we would give that to the client or the customer. Okay. And so they would have hundreds of tickets, maybe not that many, but everybody was, as soon as they were done and they left that employee gave them the ticket. So we would start a ticket every time we were writing something on a ticket, right? Because we wanted that carbon copy. You'd be surprised at how many times we were actually going back and checking the carbon copies to see, hey, did this person pay or blah, 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 blah. Where did this item go? Right? Because there is that element of security that we have to provide for the sale too. So it's retention on like what's in the sale and making sure we're paying attention to those big ticket items as the sale's going on, right? People have sticky fingers no matter what you're doing, whether it's in person, flash sales, or online auction pickups. There's still the element of people taking things that don't belong to them. And so you have to just kind of be aware of that. So the holding tables, once those customers got those items written up on tickets, if they didn't want to carry them around, which we don't want them carrying them around because you can only buy so much if we're only limiting ourselves to what we're holding in our hands, right? So we encourage them, or we would help them go take that stuff outside, put it on the holding table. The holding tables, we like divided up with blue tape. So there were like sections out there, and we could just move the tape if we needed to make a section bigger for somebody. But that's really kind of how we divided up that and kept each customer's item separate from the next. And obviously, we had signs plastered all over these tables. And I don't mean plastered on top because when you put signs on top of tables, nobody can read them. We had them hanging down so people could absolutely read them. And they basically were saying, this is the holding section. All of these items are already spoken for. Like these items are not for sale. So that way, if you're coming into the sale for the first time, that's not the first area you go to thinking, oh my God, look at all these great items over here. Yeah, they're so great. That's why they're there. Everybody wants them. And so that was what our holding tables looked like right there, kind of by that checkout station. We did offer coffee and water and animal cookies. So we got to the houses usually at 6 a.m. to just do a little bit more prep. Our sale opened at 8 a.m., but we were putting directional signs out from the main cross streets, and those usually went out and were up by 6 a.m. because we started passing out lineup numbers at 6 a.m. So anybody that got the email on Thursday night when we sent it out for advertising it, we put the physical address in our email followers list. So they knew what the physical address was on Thursday. Our rule of thumb was you can come and put a holding marker place in line before Saturday morning, but our rule was you had to stay at the house until the sale opened, or not opened, until we got there to pass out numbers. And so, depending on the items that we were selling in those sales, sometimes we would have people there Friday morning already with a marker in line, sleeping in their car for about a day and a half. So that's always pretty exciting when that happens. But we would offer the coffee and water, cookies. We'd set that up at 6 a.m. when we get there. At 6 a.m., we're also hanging up those like bulk pricing signs. We're just kind of making sure everything's got a price tag on it. We've already priced, but we're just making sure at this point nothing was missed. We're opening cupboards and all this other stuff. And usually we're not finding things. But there was every now and then we would find something where we missed a cupboard here and there. Not gonna lie, it does happen. And so that's just sort of like what's happening on physical sale day. All right. Then throughout the day, we would do price drops. So we were very notorious for only doing a 1 day only sale, right? We're creating this like urgency to get to our sale because we're not going to be here tomorrow. But your competitors, they're typically doing like a 2 or 3 day estate sale. I don't know if any of you have ever been to an in-person estate sale, but that's kind of usually what happens. And so we were notorious, 1 day only. And you're probably thinking, oh my God, how are you selling all this stuff in 1 day? And believe it or not, like we would sell 70% of our sale like in the first part of our day, right? And so that looked like from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., we did full price. At 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., we did 25% off. And then from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., we did 50% off. Okay. And so we would pass out lineup numbers again for 1 p.m. as well. So you could get a lineup number at 6 a.m. for the 8 a.m. time and for the 1 p.m. time. Okay. And so that's just basically guaranteeing them, first back in the door. So at like 12:45, we would clear the house out, right? So we're getting everybody outside. We're making sure if they have any last minute purchases that they want to purchase for 25% off, that they go do that now. We make sure everything is off that holding table because come 1 o'clock, everybody's going to be out of the house and we're going to do like a quick reset. More so, we're going around looking in closets and cupboards and drawers and under beds and in the bathrooms, just looking to find things that people hid, right? Some people are going to hide things, holding them hopefully for that 50% price drop. Again, when there's a will, there's a way. Somebody's going to figure out how to do it. And so, what we were doing at that point is if we found it in the garage hiding somewhere, then we literally took it and put it to the complete opposite side of the house. Like we kind of made it fun and funny like that in a sense of you're not going to get this item if you were sneaky and hiding it from us. All right. So the payment system, I don't know if I really need to talk about much that with you guys, more so Kat, but we did have a full-blown cash register. I don't think that's super necessary now, but our cash register was programmed. So it was programmed for the tax, it was programmed for the price drops. And so for us, it was really easy to run a report throughout the day, right? So I would run 3 or 4 reports throughout the day just so we could see where we were. I definitely ran it at 11, at 1 and at 3, but sometimes on a really great sale, when we had jewelry or sterling or mid-century modern furniture, we would run that report probably 5 or 6 times in that day. Like we would run it at 10 o'clock, after we'd only been open for like an hour and a half or 2 hours. We'd run it again, at like 2 o'clock, right after we went through our 1 o'clock rush, just to see where we were and how that difference was. And that's how we knew that we were selling 70% of our sale, at that first price point at the 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. From 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., we probably sold another like 15 or 20% of the stuff. And then at that 1 p.m. price drop, we were maybe selling like another 10%. So the bulk of it really was going earlier on in the day. And the reason that is because we were pricing for the market, right? Like we understood we only had a 7-hour sale to get rid of all this stuff. And so it's not in our best interest or the client's best interest to really like overvalue the items, right? So we were pricing the items at half of market value. So for the items that we were researching and looking for on eBay, we would look to see, how many have sold, what the average price of all those items that were comparable sold. We would include the shipping price into that. So if it sold for $25 and the shipping was 25, we assumed that total cost of that item was $50. Our starting price would be 25. Okay, so when you're coming in at 8 a.m., you're already getting a really great market value deal. Okay, and so this again drove urgency to our sales because you don't have to come day 2 or day 3 to get those price drops. And by the time those price drops happen, they're kind of already about as low as our starting price. So again, that's what was driving more traffic to our sales versus our competitor sales. And we're in retired state, we're Arizona out here, so sunshine all day long. We maybe get rain if we're lucky 2 months out of the year, and it's very scattered. So even if it rains, it doesn't rain all day and it doesn't rain very long and very hard. So it's not much of a hiccup for us. Our average estate sale grossing was about $16,000. So when you think about that in a sense of the team, if we're doing 2 sales like that on Saturday, that's, we're looking at about a maybe $35,000 grossing weekend. If we did a flash sale, those flash sales, usually were ranging from 3,000 to 5,000. So, my team in a matter of 4 or 5 days was able to get 3 sales ready that produced about $40,000 for my owner before, we had to pay anybody, right? That's just what the gross sales were. So If they're done right, they can absolutely be profitable. We offered credit card machine there so they could pay cash our credit cards. I would also recommend that for you guys. And then I think the big differentiator for us is that we had what we called buyout companies. So right now at the end of your guys' auctions, I'm sure it's kind of painful. You're stuck having to deal with all the stuff that didn't get picked up or maybe didn't get any bids on it. If you're dabbling with picker sales, you got all that like low value donation stuff sort of still sticking around that you have to deal with. And so same with the state sales. There's going to be about, for us, we would tell our clients it's about like 10% of what we started with was typically left in the houses. And that's going to be like a little bit of stuff everywhere, right? A little bit of office, a little bit of kitchen, a little bit of garage, outdoor, right? There's a little bit of furniture. So it wasn't really a lot of stuff, but it was just enough stuff that we didn't want to deal with, right? That's more time and labor going against something that really we're trying to keep as cheap as possible. So we sought out buyout people, and those buyout people looked a couple of different ways for us. So we had what we called like full-blown buyout companies that those typically had storage units or a store of some sort that they were liquidating stuff at. And then some of the other ones were just like private resellers and dealers that were just dealing and dabbling with specific categories, right? Like, honestly, you'd be surprised at some of the people that were coming back at the end of the day trying to bulk buy some of these leftover, what I would call categories. You just never know what people are into and what they're going to be doing with this stuff. We had an Asian guy that would come in and buy all the like the yard tools. Like I had to ask him one day, I'm like, are you a landscaper? Do you have a business? Like, what are you doing? Like all of a sudden he just started buying these tools and it was not regular for him to do that. This is not something he did all the time. Then he just started doing it. And so like me, I'm like, what are you doing with this stuff? Why? You got a business? Like, how can I help feed some more stuff into your business? He's like, oh no. I'm like, well, what are you doing with it? He's like, oh, I take the heads off. So he's taking the like rake part or the shovel part and he's mailing that back to the Philippines. I don't know why. Maybe they're somehow repurposing it and then selling it back to us in the States. I don't know, but it's just super clever. Clearly he made money doing that, otherwise he wouldn't do it. But we also had somebody that would come purchase like all this the plated sterling, because he was a sterling buyer and a gold buyer and a jewelry buyer, but he also had somebody that could melt the sterling from the metal. And so when he had enough of it, he would take it and then that would be worth his while. And he was, scooping up more sterling at a steal of a deal, really. Vintage clothing buyers, vintage electronics, we had book people, right? And so we were seeking out these like resellers on a very low level, and we called them like categorical buyout people. So we would let them come in and start putting piles together like around 2:30 after we got through that 50% off rush. But when we knew that the sale was like almost done, at this point, we're really just giving the stuff away for pennies to the dollar just because we're trying to get rid of it and maximize the sale for the client. And then at 3 p.m., we had our full-blown buyout company, who is the person that's going to buy out everything remaining in that house, right? And so they got a really great deal. We only charged them for the furniture. All the smalls were just like bonus items. They just got those included for free. And that's because those are the most time consuming. And I mean, if you do it right, they could be the more profitable part of a buyout, but that's the long game that you're playing with the smalls. And so we understood that. And that's the most time consuming to get it all packed up. So the buyout company that we would bring in, we'd walk around with them and we would write down all of the full prices that were still of the furniture pieces that were still there. And then we basically divided it by 75%. And that was our starting negotiation price. So once we had a final total of all the furniture that was left, say it was like $500, because this one particular guy bought out from us every week, we could count on him to do a buyout from one sale. Sometimes he would do them from both. he got a steal of a deal. Like this guy was never really paying more than like 250 or $300, right? And that's good. But he had to bring his own people, his own dollies, bins. We gave him access to the house. We gave him the lockbox code. And at 3 o'clock, we basically switched places. We broke down all of our stuff. At this point, all of our team that's still left is taking the stuff off of our tables. They're putting it on the floors. They're putting it on the counters for his team to come in and pack it up. And we're taking all of our tables and tablecloths, all of our supplies, and we're dipping out. We're leaving. Then I'd go back in on the next day on Sunday morning and then do our light clean, make sure everything was actually removed. And that's basically when we were turning the house back over to the clients. Any questions on sort of like your sale day? I wanted to start with sale day just so you could kind of see the end before the beginning.
So, Sheree, this particular sale, and probably not uncommonly, I'm guessing maybe for us, is in a condo building. And so when you were talking about setting up like outside and everything, I can't really figure out like it's definitely a small space. And obviously we need to talk to the building about, how that could potentially work. But do you have any
Do you
thoughts
have
on
a
that?
garage at that one? At the condo? Do you have a garage?
Yeah, there's the big public garage. Uh-huh.
Wait, it's a public garage?
I mean, it's not a public garage, it's a building garage.
Oh, so the client doesn't have their own like one car garage?
No, no,
Okay.
they just have a parking spot in the gigantic. Yeah.
Yeah, you might actually have to set up inside.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't have like an area, and there were times that we were like, if we had a massively big house and it was
Hmm.
very full, then yeah, we would set me up inside because we knew we weren't going to have 4 to 6 holding tables. We had a really good like foyer area that when you walked in, it was wide, it was long, and the lines like weren't snaking into the kitchen or right down the hall, which is what sometimes happens depending on the layout of the house. So
Right.
yeah, you should be okay, or if you could just be like right outside the front door, I don't know what that like if there's like a little bit of a walkway to get inside the house, but maybe that might be the ideal spot. If you send me pictures or do like a video walkthrough with me on Monday when you get there or Tuesday when you get there,
Yeah.
I can give you some suggestions if
Okay. Yeah. Is there an element of, particularly because of the small space, only letting a certain number of people in at a time? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, it is. You definitely, I mean, we were letting everybody in kind of essentially, but are we talking like a 1,600 square foot kind of condo here?
Um, it
It's
might be, yeah, 16, 18, something like that.
okay.
I think it might be 18. Yeah.
Okay, so we would probably let in for that size house like probably 50 people at one time, maybe even 60, depending on how
Okay.
much stuff was in the house, how many extra tables we had to set up for staging.
Hmm.
Like how dense is the house? Is it medium density, high density, low density? Those are all the different things that we're also kind of factoring in how many people we could let in at one time.
Yeah, it's actually pretty nicely laid out, like everything. I mean, other than like their kitchen cabinets, right? And a couple of things in the closet. I think it's actually okay. It's not, I wouldn't say low, but like low to medium density probably.
Okay. Yeah, so you'd probably be okay putting about 50 people in there. Like once you guys get in there and you start processing, depending on how big each room is, just kind of when each person's in their own room, kind of just imagine like how many people could comfortably fit in this room at one time and still be able to shop effectively,
Hmm.
right? Like you got to remember like the psychology of shopping now. At this point, you got to tap into that. Like we're lazy as humans, especially when we're in this like exciting realm of shopping. We want to window shop first, right? And so people usually window shop like a decent distance away. I can't be like right up on a bookshelf and be able to effectively shop all those shelves. Like I have to be a little bit of a distance away because I'm in a window shop, right? I'm going to be scanning each shelf far
Hmm.
away and then I'm going to then I'm going to commit and I'm going to go into the shelf that I want to kind of start pulling some books out. So as you get into those rooms and you start to see how the furniture's fitting in there, as you've rearranged stuff and you start throwing in extra tables and stuff, like how many comfortably could you fit in that room before it becomes a problem and people can't shop? So like those are
Yeah.
sort of the things that you want to be kind of thinking about. And so once you get to that point, then you can kind of assess how many people you want in the house at one time.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. And so, but someone should presumably, it sounds like someone, there should always be sort of someone at the front door.
That,
Um,
that'll be your
right?
cashier person. So
Okay.
whoever's working your cashier, that's the face essentially. So they're the first touch point when people come in, they're greeting them. They're the last touch point. They're also greeting them when they leave, right?
Mhm.
Think about how you guys, when you go into restaurants or you go into some place now, do you like it when somebody's like, "Hi, welcome in," or engage with you right away, or do you prefer nobody say anything to you, right? Typically, we want somebody engaging with us. So that cashier person is that person. They're the face and the mouthpiece of the business at this point. They're going to be leaving the first and last impression on these people as they come and they go. And so that person also has to be able to multitask like a mother, right? Like you're checking people out, you're kind of keeping an eye on the holding table to make sure newbies are not walking up and taking things off of that table. You're watching the front door, making sure people are not leaving that haven't cashed out and that sort of thing. So it's not just a one pony gig kind of sitting there at the register. You've got to be a beast in the sense of multitasking, or you're going to have to throw another body on that sale to have two people there working that register to be able to manage all those various things that are going on. Does that kind of help? And then everybody else
Totally.
they get posted up. So for a house like
Yeah.
your size, we probably have like 5 or 6 people there. For a house that's
Okay.
like 3,000 square feet or more, like we would have somewhere between 8 to 10 people. And that's where it gets to be so expensive for estate sales because on pickup day for auctions, you're maybe having 2 or 3 people there.
Hmm.
And you're only doing an auction pickup for, 4 hours maybe, for estate sale, it's 7 hours. And we have, upwards of 6 to 10 bodies there at, you know, $85 an hour. You can see where that can get costly just in that one day for estate sale. We haven't even factored in all the prep time that it takes, to get those houses ready. And my team was able to get a house ready in about like a day and a half or 2 days. If it was like a typical standard house, if we're talking hoarder house or high density, then we were looking somewhere between like 2 to 3 days. All right. So are we ready to get into like the actual operation of how we're going to get these sales ready before we actually open the doors for the sale day?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Hold your enthusiasm back, guys. All right. So just like order of operations. Okay. When I first started with Sherri, oh my God, everything was so chaotic. We were doing everything at once. No joke. Everything at once. There was no order to our chaos. And it took us 2 weeks to get one house ready. Right? Then my boss started sharing numbers with us. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me think. Let me just see if I'm understanding this correctly. So you paid all of us employees and you wrote the client a check, but this number here in parentheses means that you lost money on this project. For me, that really hit me hard because I grew up with a single mom, raising 4 kids. We're all super active in sports. And I was like, I don't understand. We're not doing things right. You might have trained me to do something, but I'm like, I don't know if you trained me the right way. And so that's when I started really like honing into this process. Like, how can I shave seconds, minutes, time down? And that's how we went from one house every 2 weeks to it took us a week to process to it was taking us a couple of days. And I was like, then, hey, guess what, guys? We can actually do 2 sales a week. If you've got enough business, I can get this team to do 2 sales a week. And that was just by refining this process. And my goal really was to take all the thinking out of every step that I could for my team. That sounds really crazy, but if I can get you in a groove where you don't really have to think about anything except for like 1 or 2 things, you're going to get so much more production done and out of that person. And so that was sort of like my concept of how I broke everything down. So everybody started sorting and organizing the house, right? So everybody walks in when they get to the house and they get scheduled. We all do our own walkthrough individually, okay? And so I always got to the house first, usually about an hour before everybody, because that was the first time I ever saw the house myself, too. I wasn't doing the consultations. And so I walked around to every room and I'm opening up all the drawers, all the cupboards, all the closets, and I just leave those open. No joke. I'm not closing anything after I open it because I need my team to now come do the same thing when they get here. So they're walking around the whole entire house, the outdoor, the garage, any sheds if we have them. If guys got to look up, right? Do we have attics? Do we have crawl spaces? Look behind doors. There are doors behind doors. You'd be surprised how many times that does happen and you forget and you miss stuff. But we're basically walking through and looking at the rooms and evaluating the stuff, right? We're kind of sizing it up. How much stuff is in this room? What are the categories that we have in these rooms, right? Like, what are the electronics? How many of those do we have? Like, do we have games? Do we have a lot of clothes? Is there a lot of books? Like, what are we seeing a lot of quantity of in a sense of categorical stuff, right? So we're walking around kind of doing that, and then everybody separates. We divide and conquer. I do not work two people to a team. I feel like if you work with somebody else, it's going to slow you down. I feel like you're working against each other a lot of the time. You start to talk. Not that I don't want talking and communicating happening on the site, but I just don't want so much of that like I had people on the team that they couldn't have a conversation with you across the room without you looking at them. Okay, that's a problem for me, right? Like I don't mind having a conversation with you while we're working, but if you have to have my direct eye contact, you're not going to get it, right? Like I'm here focusing, doing what I need to do. So I really did just separate everybody, one person to a room. For the garage, if I had two guys working the garages and outdoors, then they would kind of be working in that garage area together. But that is a big enough area where I could have two people and they're working on complete opposite sides of the room, not interfering with each other's work. Or one could go to the shed outside or the back porch in the backyard, and the other can start in the garage. Like that's kind of how I was working with them. But essentially, everybody's going to go into the room and we're going to start this like sort and organize process. Okay. On average, if it's a typical room with density and not like anything crazy, my staff could process anywhere from 2 to 3 rooms in one day. Okay. And so processing for us is basically you're going to go into a room. We're going to work, I used to like to start at the door area and just go counterclockwise. And I go left to right, top to bottom, right? So I'm touching everything in my path. We would take a table in every room with us, and we called that our processing table. Okay. So as we're like going through and we're clearing stuff off dressers and clearing things out of dressers or desks and stuff like that, we're not putting it back on top of that desk or that dresser. We're processing it and then putting it on our processing table, right? So the process looks like this. I touch something and I'm doing several things in this first initial touch. As soon as I pick up that one item, I'm deciding, is it trash? Is it donation? Or is it sellable? Right? So if it's trash, it goes in the black bag. If it's donation, it goes to the white bag. If it's sellable, then I got to do a couple other things to it. So if it's sellable and it's an electronic, then I'm going to plug in this electronic and I'm going to test it because I need to make sure it's still sellable, right? Is it working? Does it function? Everything's working well on it. If not, then I might donate it depending on value and quality, right? If it's a vintage item, if it's got some just, cool value to it just as is and it's an easy fix, then we might sell it. If not, then we're going to donate it. Once I've tested the item and I've said, okay, yeah, cool, gonna keep it, then at that point, I'm gonna wrap that cord up. Oh my God, please wrap those extension cords or those power cords up. And then I'm gonna clean the item, right? So I'll wipe it down, or if I'm doing like glassware or stemware, I'm gonna clean the stemware, right? So once I've cleaned it, I'm going to then put it in a organized pile, categorical pile on my processing table, right? So I'll have a pile of electronics. I'll have a pile of stemware. I'll have a pile of decor items. I'll have a pile of tools, right? Kitchen, so on and so forth. But everything is happening on that first touch. I've cleaned it and then I've put it into an organized pile. If it's a small item, we like to bundle items, right? Because we didn't really want to price things for less than like $4 or $6. If we knew it had sellable factor, but it was still like one of those things that, yeah, we'd only put $1 or $2 on, we would start to bundle that in some way, right? So we're bundling like items in several different ways. We're bundling them in baggies and all different size baggies. We're bundling them with clear tape, rubber bands, ribbon, right? All the things. We're just kind of doing all those things. And that's also reducing the amount of things that we have to price at the back end, right? If I'm bundling 15 or 20 kitchen gadgets like ice cream scoops and pizza slicers and stuff like that into a gallon baggie, then I could put 18 to 25 bucks on that gallon baggie of kitchen gadgets. If I have to then just keep them out displayed and sell them singularly, then yeah, I gotta price them all individually, which is time consuming. Or if you're doing this like bulk pricing section, which it gets difficult when you're doing like little gadgets like that, to keep track of, this is the $1 bin, this is the $2 bin, the $4 bin, right? Like, how do you decipher what was originally in the $2 bin but's now sitting in the $4 bin, or vice versa, right? So we just kind of bundled cleaning products, office supplies, games, kitchen gadgets, scarves, in a sense of accessories, various things. There were various things, and you'll see some pictures here in a minute of what some of the things were that we were bundling. But all of that was happening on that first initial touch. So when I talk about 3 touches, that looks like that. First is that processing, that sort organized touch. The second touch is going to happen when you have processed this room that you're in. I'm going to use as an office as an example. So if I'm processing the office right now, then depending on your visibility capabilities, about halfway through this room, 3/4 of the way through this room, I can start to visualize how this room is going to look and present in a sense of what it's going to stage like, right? I did that pre-walkthrough. All the team did the pre-walkthrough. So at that point, for me as the manager, I'm looking to see how much of each category we have, right? And depending on how much of that category we have, that's going to determine where it gets staged in the house, right? So there were a couple of categories for us that they were staged in various areas of the house, just depending on the quantity of those categories, right? So for the office, we typically wanted electronics to live in the office, and we wanted books to live in the office if we could. We also wanted like board games and stuff to live in the office if we could get them all to live in there. So as I'm processing this office that I'm in, when I'm halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, remember I've been processing all the furniture. So it's all cleared off, and it stayed cleared off because I put everything on my processing table as I processed it. Now I can start to pre-stage that room. Okay. And so that second touch is going to be the pre-stage part. All right. And that's going to look like all the things that are office related that I have currently in the room that I'm in. I'm not going to leave my room. Okay. I'm going to stay in the room, and I'm going to pre-stage with the stuff in my room. If I have office stuff like for the desk, we would put, like staplers and things like that. We would stage the desk to make it look like it was a desk and the things that you would see typically on a desk. So think when you walk into Dillard's or Macy's or Walmart or Target, how are they merchandising for you guys? It's a real thing. People get paid big bucks to suggestively sell things to you, right? And all they're doing is setting it up in a certain way, and that's their suggestion, right? Even you go into the grocery store and you see those big doo-wops with like the soda and stuff. That is somebody putting some time and effort into that to catch your attention. And that's what we're trying to do in a sense of the staging and that merchandising part. So we would stage the desk with some office items. If we had like bookshelves in there, then obviously it's like, let's put the books on them first. If we have extra space, then we can start using those bookshelves for electronics or games to stage on them. If their bookshelves were selling, we don't want to overstage them. If they're built-in bookshelves that aren't going anywhere, then we would stage the crap out of them, okay? But we don't want to overstage the furniture because at 8 o'clock when the sale opens, if somebody comes in and wants that desk because it's a mid-century modern desk and it is in perfect condition, then what I don't want to happen, because they want to take it right now, is I don't want to have to clear off a ton of stuff from that desk. And then where am I going to put it? Right? Like, so we would minimally stage the furniture if we could avoid it. Overstaging it, we would. And then we would set up tables in all the rooms. And we had various size tables. We had narrow tables, 6-foot narrow tables, 4-foot narrow tables, square card tables. We had 8-foot tables, 6-foot tables, right? Like we did all the things with the tables. So we could take closet doors off and throw a table in a closet or put a table over a garden bathtub so we can stage on the bathtub, right? So we're thinking outside the box to really maximize our areas of stageable surfaces in a sense, right? So I would pre-stage all of the office items that I have in that room. I'd finish my processing that I hadn't quite finished yet. And now when I say I'm done with this room, I've processed it. And when I say it's processed, that means all the trash is out. We're pulling very obvious donation stuff out. So at the end of every sale, my team is also walking around to see like what's left, what didn't sell. If we continuously, week after week after week, are seeing the same things that are not selling, those become our hot donation items. Those are the things now we're automatically pulling and we're donating. We would have a massive donation pile before the sale ever even started. Like we're removing that from the house, but we are purging these houses a lot. They're still really full, and you're going to see some of these pictures because I'm going to show you. They are still really full, but we purged these houses so much. It's unbelievable. We are only trying to sell the things that we know are sellable. Okay. So it's kind of similar to the online auction realm, except we're going to, some of those things that you guys are selling in the picker sales, we're absolutely going to sell in the estate sales because they thrive in the estate sales. But like coffee cups or clear glass, like I know there's a lot of clear glass on this table right here, but if that's all the glassware that was in the house, we're going to try to sell it. If we have a mix of like clear glass, like this picture here, or crystal glass, then we're donating all of this clear glass and we're only selling the crystal glass, right? So there were lots of things that, rule of thumb, we were donating right out the gates, right? To kind of just minimize and reduce the amount of stuff in the houses that we were selling. But don't get me wrong, we were still selling a lot of stuff. And so once we got the donation, we bundled and pre-staged. We removed our trash bags, we removed the donation bags, and everything that hadn't been staged in that room, right? Because you're going to have kitchen in every room in the house. I don't know why that is, but there's probably a pile of kitchen in this office still. There's probably, some decor piles. For us, we always staged the masculine decor in the office, and then the more feminine decor got staged in the guest bedrooms or the master bedroom or maybe like the living room. So we kind of had a distinction there. So we probably have on this processing table in the office, like 2, 3, 4, 5 piles that still need to get dispersed somewhere. Okay. But I'm not going to disperse them right after I process this room because I've only processed one room. If I have 5 people in this house right now, maybe some people are still processing their first room, but not every room in the house has been processed. So what I don't want to do is start moving these piles and move them to an area that has not been processed. Because what's going to happen there is now they're getting touched to be moved. They're not getting staged. That's a problem for me. And they're sitting there risking being touched again and processed by somebody else that's coming in and processing that room, right? So they're going to just live in this room that's already done. until we're all done processing this whole entire house. Then we're going to start to what we call full-blown stage. So what we're doing in the room is just pre-staging with what's going to live in those rooms. That's in the room right now. But once the whole house has been processed, then I'd cut half of my team out of the house, to be honest. I was such a firm believer in the smaller the team, the more production that happens. I know that sounds really crazy, and you're probably like, no way, but you'd be surprised. Be a manager. Watch your team walk by something that needs to be done 3, 4, 5 times. When you have a team of 5 or 6 people there, you cut half of those people out, you will see that amount of people walking past that item to get something done. You will see that shrink, I promise you. And it's just because you don't have somebody else to rely on. You don't have, oh, I won't do it because somebody else will do that. They'll pick it up, they'll get it, right? You just don't have that with the smaller team. So on Monday, when we started the houses, I would have 2 people leave and start a completely separate house come Tuesday. And then I'd have, 3 or 4 people in the house that we were working come Tuesday, right? Because again, each person is roughly processing 2 to 3 rooms in one day, right? So if you think like a regular, probably 2,500 square foot house, you have, 3 bedrooms, you've got like a foyer, a living room, a family room, a kitchen, maybe a dinette, maybe a laundry room, a hall bathroom, a hall closet, maybe a book nook if you have it. You've got a garage, outdoor patio, front door patio. I mean, we're talking maybe 10 to 15 areas in a house, right? So if you've got 3 people or 5 people working and they can each process about 2 or 3 areas a day, you can see how the bulk of the work got done in one day, right? Hopefully you can start to see that. It's doable. It can be done, okay? And so by day 2, I was pushing people out of the house. That's how we were able to get 3 houses done in a matter of 4 days, is because I'm cutting and running, right? Cutting and running. And so once the whole house has been processed and pre-staged, then we're going to start staging those piles that were left in every room, right? And I'm going to let the piles dictate to where I go and what I do. So I'll start wherever, I don't care. If I start back in the office and I grab that kitchen pile that's randomly in the office, I'm going to go to the kitchen. And what I'm not going to do is just set that stuff down in the kitchen and come back and stage it. Okay, because now I'm adding an additional touch that I don't want to happen, right? So we're still on touch 2 here, okay? The stuff that was still sitting on the processing table, that hasn't been touched a second time yet, right? So staging is still the step 2, the touch 2, no matter how you slice and dice that. So I'm going to take that pile of kitchen stuff from the office and I'm going to stage it immediately, okay, on my second touch. Then I'm going to take a pile from the kitchen that's sitting there, which is probably a pile of tools or maybe a pile of office stuff. And I'm going to take that pile of tools and I'm going to go to the garage. And now I'm going to stage those tools in the garage. Usually the garage has several processing tables that have to come inside. And so now I'm taking a pile from the garage and it's taking me wherever I need to go into the house, right? So say it's what we called kitchen overflow, and our kitchen overflow was like your kitchen appliances, the cookware, the bakeware, the like utensils, the plastic Tupperwares, like that's what we deemed kitchen overflow. Only the really pretty stuff we staged in the kitchen, right? And so kitchen overflow, we always staged on the back porch because it's right off the kitchen usually. And typically we were staging like 4 to 6 tables of kitchen overflow stuff. There was that much. And so I would go take those piles and then I'd stage them wherever they're going in the kitchen overflow area, right? At that time, I'm also probably setting up tables and putting tablecloths on these things, right? So I'm doing that before I also like start to stage something. If I know I need, like for the kitchen overflow, if I know I'm going to have 4 or 5 tables of stuff, then before I ever start staging, I'm going to set up those tables. I'm going to throw the tablecloths on them and I'm going to get prepped and ready to receive the stageable items, okay? So then we rinse and repeat that throughout the whole entire house. So now everything is staged. At this point, I only have like 2 or 3 people in this house. So one person is completing whatever processing that didn't get completed on day one. The second person is, well, actually, the other 2 people, they're then staging the rest of the stuff that's left over. Okay. And so when that's all done, then we start our pricing. Okay. So we don't price anything until everything is all staged. And that's because we don't want pricing's not going to interfere with our advertising of the sale, right? So we needed the house done and ready by a certain time so our photographer could come in. Like we brought in a very they're professional photographer, but they didn't have a business or anything like that. There was like a freelance person that just did it as a hobby, but they were very professional and did really great pictures. And so they would come in and shoot the whole entire house for us. And so at that point, we could price at any point after that. We just had to have it all priced come Saturday morning, right? Or Friday morning if we were doing a flash sale. And so the pricing would then be maybe your third touch if you had to touch the item to price it. But sometimes you don't even have to do that. I'm going to stand and hover over a table and, I've got a pricing guide. I'll show you guys what that looks like. If I'm having to research something, that's one thing, but typically I can see everything I need to see just by hovering over it. Some of those gallon baggies or whatnot, maybe if I didn't bag them, I'm like kind of picking them up just to see what brands are in there, how much is in there, the quality of the items in there before I determine a price, right? Any questions on sort of that order of operations? I know I threw a lot at you guys right now.
I have a dumb one. So your processing table, like this is we're never using a piece of furniture in the house, right? Because that's getting sold, right? So we need to bring whatever, 3 or 4 tables for this place, maybe more. Is that right?
Yeah, you're looking at probably needing like 15 to 20 plus tables.
I beg your pardon?
Yes, you heard me correctly.
That's
And
one
that's
sale?
for one sale, yeah, because you're
Okay,
needing to stage items on the tables as well,
got it. Okay.
right? So you need tables for processing. Some of those tables will get converted into staging tables, right, as we empty them off and stuff. But then you're also going to need those holding tables on sale day, right? So if you think one table in every room, not every room gets a table, but if you just think I have 5 to 10 rooms in the house and each one of those rooms is going to get a table, that's at least, minimum 5, maximum 10 tables. If I'm using 4 tables for the holding section on sale day, we're talking another 4 tables there. Usually in the garage, you're using several tables in the garage to stage. So yeah, I mean, 20 tables, easy. High density
Okay.
houses, like we would probably have 40 tables in a high density house.
So should we rent these tables? We don't know if we're ever gonna, you know what I mean, get another in-person estate sale. Maybe hopefully we will, right? But
Well, you need these tables even for like auctions, right? For pickups, for prep day. Like as auctions are getting processed and prepped, like you can have multiple photographing stations and you should have multiple
yeah,
photographing stations anyways. Like nobody should be sharing a photographing station, right?
right.
Every room should have its own photographing station. What's in that room gets photographed in that room. And that's how it is, right? And you should, I mean, even for the auction side, you might not have felt it yet because have you done any like really high density houses?
One in the beginning, but we were learning everything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, not so much. Yeah, just yeah,
When you get into those high density houses, like you are gonna need tables on tables on tables on tables. So right now,
yeah.
you might want to rent some tables. I don't really know what that cost looks like.
Okay.
If you have tables, maybe ask friends and family if anybody has any folding tables right now that you could just borrow without having to like go out and invest in a bunch right away. But honestly, what we were doing is every house that we processed that had a table that we were using, like we bought it from the client. So we
Mm.
accumulated a lot of our tables. Same with like the tablecloths. Like I never sold a single white tablecloth or black tablecloth. Like you would never find one in one of our sales to sale. And that's because we scooped them up because we needed them for staging.
Got it.
So those are the things you do want to start like just accumulating from your clients. But you're talking a low density house. So you're probably not going to need that much stuff because you can lightly stage on the furniture, right? You
Okay.
just don't want to overstage the furniture because if they come in and they want to buy these pieces of furniture, then you've got to think about what I'm going to do with this stuff sitting on that piece of furniture.
Right.
Like I still have to keep it presentable and sellable, right? Because if I now then just put the stuff on the floor, newsflash, we're so lazy as consumers. Like if we have to look up too high, like now we're doing too much. If we have to like look down too low on the floor, yeah, you lost me as a buyer, right? Like that's
Yeah.
much effort. Now you want me to bend over and pick this up? Like, oh my God, I'm overweight. I'm short of breath. I can't bend over. Like there's all these different things that are kind of going into that. And so you do want to have a plan of if we're staging on furniture, a lot of stuff on furniture, if that piece of furniture sells, like where are we going to put the stuff and move it so the sale is still presentable the whole way through. We're not
Yeah.
restaging or anything, but we just don't want it to look like a hot cluttered mess either.
Yeah. Got it.
Because you got to remember also, like, keep this in mind. In-person estate sales, I talk about this and I can't talk about it enough. It is a networking day for you guys. So when you're seeing 100 people walk through the doors, that's 100 potential clients for you, right? What you don't want a potential client to see is a chaotic, messy, not organized, disheveled estate sale because they're in their mind, they're thinking, oh, is this what my sale is going to look like if I hire this company? Right. And so you do kind of want to keep that in mind as well. We are putting on a show essentially for potential clients down the road. And
Yeah,
also,
I was mostly thinking about the labor of moving that many tables in and out, and then the storage of them also.
oh yeah, that is going to be something you're going to get used to very
Get
quickly.
used to it. Okay,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, in all reality, I mean, it is what it is right now because you're only doing maybe one project every couple of weeks, but that's not going to be sustainable for you as a business owner, right? Eventually, you're
Right.
going to get to a point where you have a big enough team and you're running multiple projects in a week. So if
Yeah.
you've got two or three houses going in one week. I mean, think of all the tables that we had. If we had three estate sales happening in one week, two online auctions happening in one week, and warehouse auctions happening in one week.
Yeah. It's just part of it. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it really is. And no, you don't need to have 50 tables right now starting out the gate, but probably have 10 at least.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, we have four, so that's not, yeah, I got you.
Yeah, you're not too far off of that. And I bet you probably have some at home or maybe the staff, everybody kind of come up to play a little bit. Or
Yeah.
friends and family. I bet you could scrounge up another 5 or 10 tables just by asking friends and family.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what we'll do.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't give up
cool.
right now. But keep it on your radar as you guys are start processing houses. Like, honestly, I never sold baggies, trash bags,
Yeah.
like cleaning products that we use in a sense of like Windex, Dawn dish soap, SOS pads, dusting spray, like microfiber cloths. Those are my favorite. Like if you weren't dusting with a microfiber cloth, you are not dusting, in my opinion, right? So it's like all of those things we just threw to a pile, right? And like these were our work supplies for like office stuff for like the office, like any kind of ream of paper, those you would never find reams of paper at our sales because we took that for the business, not take it, we bought it, but we would accumulate it to a pile and we would purchase it for the business, right? So same if we had heaters, sometimes portable heaters or portable fans, AC units, pop-up tents. These are things that we accumulated over time. We didn't never went out and bought outright brand new. But we knew over time, like, oh yeah, pop-up would be really nice if I have to sit outside all day on a Saturday, right? Oh, and a portable AC unit, that'd be really nice too at 110 degrees. So those are things that we purchased super cheaply through the clients through those sales over time. All right, so I'm gonna just click on this. For some reason, our old estate sale links don't Oh no, why are you opening on the sale? They don't show all the pictures in a sale anymore, which is so weird because they used to, I thought at one point. But we would do for our full-blown estate sales, our photographer would throw up anywhere between like 350 to 500 pictures. Okay. So usually this is our estatesale.net ad. So this is what the consumers are seeing on Thursday night. Come like 6 o'clock, we put this out. And we put this out 6 o'clock Thursday for a sale that's happening Saturday. Like we only advertised for 2 days. Not even
There a
really.
reason for that other than just you didn't have time to get in the house beforehand from like a marketing perspective?
For us, it was no, because it wasn't anything to do with that. Because even when we were still only doing one sale like a week or one sale every 2 weeks, like we still only did that. And that's just because that's how the market's trained, really. Like your estate sale market, or if you guys have ever been to an estate sale, you've probably learned to go to the estatesale.net or .org or .net site by Wednesday or Thursday of that week to see what's happening on Saturday, right? We would have teasers out there, right? Like we would say, we had a list of like our upcoming sales. So we would always have that listed on estatesales.net. And for what that was for us was like the cross streets, but then sort of like the draw of the sale. Like what are the things at that sale that are going to draw people there? So we would say, this sale has fine jewelry, mid-century modern, vintage items, native decor. Like we would kind of call out high level
Yeah.
for like a week or two leading up to it, right? But
Gotcha.
in a
Yep.
sense of like the photographs, yeah, they didn't get the photographs until Thursday that week.
Okay.
I would
Gotcha.
say, like, would you remember a sale that you saw an ad for 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago? Would you remember that for the week that the sale was happening?
Like honestly, yeah, I would candidly.
Mhm.
So we're just doing some experimenting with like, to your point, that's what the current estate sale market is trained for. How can we get kind of a new market, especially since we're in a highly walkable city? Um, so we're just experimenting with some things. So I was just wondering if there was any like specific strategy there, or I know a lot of times it's obviously based on like, well, we got into the house on Monday and the sales this weekend. So that kind of begets what we're able to put out there.
If you guys are starting, because I think you guys have a week before you do this sale. Is that right, Kat? Like the
Yeah,
sale is the next Saturday, is it?
yeah, it's on the 19th.
Oh, it is. Okay. So
Yeah, we get in Monday afternoon and then it's, yeah, on the 19th.
what you guys could do, like, and I don't think you guys are yet so far, but I mean, social media and the social media realm is really where you want to be. But if I were to do things differently now, if I was still working for my old boss and knowing what I know now with social media, I would do a lot more teasers leading up to that week, right? Or, leading up to that Thursday or Saturday. So, in a sense, on day one, I would probably go in and take a video of what the house looked like as is, like before, and I would talk and I would just say, hey guys, this is what the sale is this coming week. Check it out. These are some of the cool things in it. And I would start to give some teasers like that. So becoming in this like social media scrolling video era that we're in, like that's what I would do now. So come Monday, Katie, if that's going to be your realm, like I would just do a real quick down and dirty video, just a teaser to get people to come. And then day two, tease them with something different. Day three, tease them with something different leading up to that Thursday when the sale, all the like the presentation drops in a sense.
Totally. No, I agree completely.
And
Thanks.
that's
We
really,
can,
yeah. And
yeah.
you want that in-person market. And you can even do live. Like you can train your followers to go live with you, right? If you do that, like say you go live every day at the end of the day and you do that consistently, right? Like, hey, followers, I'm going to go live at 3 p.m. today. Ask me questions if you see something you want to see it. Like you can interact with your followers like that, but that is more time consuming. Obviously, if you've got somebody that's just content creation or solely driving that part of it, then that's super easy. But if it's like somebody on the team and you guys are, kind of stressed for time, those are the things that kind of would fall short for us. Absolutely. I just
Mhm.
also didn't know about the things that I know about now then. I'd have been hitting $2 million. No, I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't have. But yeah, that's what I would do now, Katie. I would just kind of lead up and just drop some teasers. And I think you can drop those videos. Like if you have a Google, or not a Google, I'm sorry. If you create a YouTube channel for your business, which you really should if you're dabbling with all the social media, then in honestatesales.net, there's an area that you can drop like a YouTube link, right? And so you could honestatesales.net, like on Monday, come Monday, you can start pre-teasing some videos there if you really are kind of trying to train your market, that will have more content available for you before, that sale advertise happens on Thursday. Um, Another thing that we did was in our description. So we're giving you a lot of pictures, 350 to 500, but we're also giving you the notable items in our description, right? So we would do a little blurb about the sale, kind of like we do for the online auctions. And then in every room, we did our top 10 items. So whoever processed that room would have to send our photographer gal, have to send her an email that had the top 10 items in each room that they processed. And then that's how that kind of lived here. So when they're looking at the pictures, same like the online auctions, we're giving them some verbal words to kind of confirm what they're seeing. And also to draw, because like when you're looking at like the dining room, for example, like sometimes you can't like make out maker marks or designers or things like that. So I know like right here we have Mexican pottery, our native baskets, but if we had like Mata Ortiz pottery, we wouldn't have written Mexican pottery, right? We would have written Mata Ortiz pottery, right? So we would call out brands, makers, artists, and stuff here. So it becomes like a draw for people, right?
And when you do the processing and then this process, are you, and Kat, interrupt me if we like already have a process for this, are you assigning every lot that you're pricing some kind of SKU or like unique identifier to keep track of it from the sale? Like when you said you were making those receipts and stuff, like to keep track of items perspective, or how do
Yeah.
we think about like keeping track of what's where and then how much it goes for and then how it moves, I guess.
So you're honestly, there is no cost-effective way to do that for an estate sale. It's just really, there's not a cost-effective way. We were using those sale tickets and that was it. So we had the carbon copy, we had the copies at the front register, and then each employee still had that yellow copy in their book. And that was it, right? Like if it was jewelry, coins, sterling, something super high value like that, or something that was like small enough to fit in the palm of your hand that had value, we held that at the register in like glass cases, like jewelry cases. So we had these like flat cases that we would kind of post up there at the cash register. Everything else, that's why we have the employees there. They're there making sure if a customer is picking up an item and they're going to walk out of that room with it, they're putting it on a ticket and they're encouraging them to, or helping them to take those items to that holding table by the register.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we've written it on the ticket. That's like our way of skewing it, I guess, in a sense. And then we're kind of encouraging them to go put it out there. So we know it's been written up. Anything sitting on the holding table has been written up on a ticket. So
Okay.
not like a SKU number per se, no. Mm-mm. Just
Okay. No, that's helpful. I'm thinking about processing. And I know you said it was like 2012, 2015 type era. We're thinking about managing things just with like a Google Drive, like sheet doc that everyone can see on their own. So we all have similar access, but I'm just trying to think through.
yeah, that's not going to be so I started that early, but I worked 10 years for her. So I worked up until 2020 so when COVID was
Okay.
still happening. So I still was in this era and generation in a sense of and whatnot. But there's not an effective way to do that. If you're using like Square, we didn't. We had a register and our department keys on the register were more so for the different clients because I don't want to blow your mind right now, but we would combine multiple clients in one house. So then we had
Right.
different pricing stickers that had different colors. So like they looked like our pricing stickers, they looked like this. So this is green and it says SKU 1, or sorry, this says SKU 3. our house sticker, the house client got a white sticker and that said SKU 2. So we were separating and differentiating by pricing sticker and the color of the sticker, but that was really geared towards the client. And I talk to owners now, like if we were using Square, I would have set up in Square categories, right? So I would have
Mhm.
had a kitchen category, I'd have had fine dining, I'd have had garage, tools, gardening, bedroom decor. Like I'd have set up all these different categories in Square because you can do that. And essentially, then I would start plugging in that way. So like because I was the cashier as well, as I'm punching stuff into the register, I'm seeing it very shorthand on their ticket, right? And I'm checking the items just like Costco. I'm checking the items on the ticket to make sure make sure everything there has been written on the ticket. But basically, the employees are going to be like office supplies, right? They'll be like CDs or books, and they're going to just write the price down on that ticket. And so I would take that ticket now, I would plug it into the category in Square.
Mhm.
So I'm not physically skewing everything in a sense of I'm going to put a barcode to this. But I mean, if you went to Avery, because we did our sticker prices, we printed those in-house. So like and they were Avery templates. So if you could essentially put a barcode to one of those SKU numbers, then you could do that. But I was just recently on Avery creating stickers and I didn't see that kind of like a feature. It would
Mhm.
have popped out to me if it was, but in a sense of a SKU number, that's just there's not a cost-effective way to produce that for
Okay. And you would say it sounds like basically like there's no benefit necessarily to being that specific with like the item naming conventions. Like there's no reason for us to be tracking like if you example have like 10 baggies of spoons or whatever, like there's no like business reason to have any kind of oversight on like
no.
that those
Yeah,
items. Okay. That makes sense.
we made that very clear in our consultation with the client that they are not going to get any kind of itemization from the sale.
Okay.
If they wanted us to follow specific items all the way through the process, in a sense of like if they wanted to know and we would limit this to how many items we would follow through, but we'd maybe tell them 5 or 10 items we'd follow all the way through, but we would let them know what those sold for, but we were not going to itemize anything on a spreadsheet. But we could easily do that now if we were using something like Square and setting up those categories. It still wouldn't be like, that one set of spoons, sold for X amount of dollars. They would just see that feminine decor sold this much money, kitchen sold this much, garage sold this much. Like that would be the as itemized as we could break it down right now. But there is no
Okay.
cost effective way. If they wanted that, then they would pay for it.
Okay. No, that's super helpful.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
would be something they'd have to negotiate way before we ever started, because that would be a different approach. Great question though. Okay, so I'll just like kind of scroll through here so you guys can just kind of see like what the setup looked like. We very much treated our houses like department stores, right? So it's like when you came into this area, this was like the electronics department. You weren't finding electronics all over scattered throughout the house, right? Office decor, office area, kitchen decor, kitchen area. The more what we called overflow, that would be in one area, but that's all sitting in one section, right? Your kitchen overflow. And that flows a specific way on the table too. Just like if you walk down Walmart's aisles, you're going to hit the cookware, the bakeware, and it's going to feed you into all these other things. That's exactly how it looked. And again, like I would take the thinking process out of it for my team. So like if you look at, I mean, you can't really see, but if you look at this picture right here, if I had a set of 4 glasses, I staged those glasses the same way every time, right? So I never had to think about how I wanted it to look and present. I just knew if I had a set of 4, it staged like a diamond. If I had a set of 5, I staged it in a circle. If I had a set of 6, I staged it in a triangular shape, right? So for me, it was I tried to make it simple and keep things uniformed and, muscle memory kicking in for me. And I wanted my team to do that too. So I really stress that. So just kind of like keep that in mind as you go, because that'll help your staging. The more you do it, it really will eliminate a lot of the time that you guys spend staging because you just don't have to think about how you want it to look, right? It's like find that focal point in the middle of the table and then we just balance at that point. What I do to the right side, I have to do to the left side, right? So I'm balancing with similar shapes, sizes, colors, right? And then I'm layering. So high things to the back, low things to the front. And then I'm putting everything in a window, right? So I don't know if any of you come from like the show business realm, our performing realm, but like we called it windows and blocking. And so when you look at the staging like this, everything has its own light, right? I needed it to be breathable, right? Because my photographer is going to come through and really she's taking a picture of everything on every table, every surface. But if everything is so like clustered and living on top of each other and it's not like I don't have enough space for each item to breathe, it gets hard for people to focus in on those items when they're scrolling through the pictures. And I don't know about you guys out there, but out here in Arizona, it's summertime, it's a retire state. We have a lot of seniors out here. And so there's anywhere between 15 to 20, 25 estate sales happening on any given weekend here. And so we're competing against not only ourselves, because we have two sales happening, but we're competing against all of our competitors. And so for me, the photographing and the staging was my most anal retentive part because I have literally split seconds to catch your attention to draw you into this sale because my sole goal was I need you at my sale when these doors open, right? If you're going out shopping for the day and you're like, all right, I'm only going to spend $300, then I need to take all of that $300 at my sale. So when you still continue your shopping for the rest of the day, you're really just window shopping, right? You're just going to go to those other estate sales because it's what you do on Saturdays. You just do it. It's a way of socializing. They're nosy. They want to see how people live. They want to see what stuff people have, right? How's it set up? They're not all necessarily going to buy stuff. They're going there to be nosy neighbors. And so for me, it was my goal that I needed you here at my sale when the sale opened and I needed to take all the money you were planning to spend that day, right? And so I'm going to draw you in with the cool, valuable items, the rares, the collectibles, but I'm going to make sure you go home with all the necessities, right? The everyday household items, the cleaning products, the maybe some of the hygiene products, some of these everyday kitchen items that you just need because your kids take a casserole to a potluck dinner and then never comes back, right? Things like that were happening. And so for me, staging was the most critical part because that's what people have to decide if they want to come to the sale or not. So presentation, everything breathable, everything having its own space and its own light is really what's necessary, right? So now you're looking at like what we were putting in our kitchens, which is all the pretty stuff and the decor stuff. And I don't know why it cuts off here, but know that what you see here, we did this for every area of the house. And so this, I don't know why it's not showing the rest of the pictures. But that is one of our, all right, guys, let's move on to, okay, there is a sort organized processing guide. I don't know if you guys really so much want me to go through it, but I've kind of spoken about every bit of it so far, but I will kind of just walk you through a little bit of it too, because it'll kind of just make a little bit more sense. And these documents are available for you guys to print out and kind of just have. But rule of thumb, when I was training when I brought in my new hires, like I sat with my new hires for a couple of hours before they ever did any kind of work on a project. And I went through this processing guide. Well, it was two processing guides now, but it was one back in the day. And so basically we divide and conquer. We set up a processing table in each room. We're going to work clockwise in each room, right? Going around, touching everything, processing everything. We're going to leave the furniture cleared. We're going to wipe it off and dust it, right? Our goal is to really touch these items. I have 2 to 4 times because on the auction side, you end up touching things way more just because you're setting the lot up, you're breaking it down, you're moving it. There are more touches that are involved on the auction side. all the stuff you process, we're deciding, is it trash? Is it donation? Is it sellable? We're emptying out closets, drawers, cupboards. We're testing items. We're wrapping cords. We're lightly cleaning them. And then we are starting to pre-bundle. We pre-stage. We stage. We price. We advertise. Okay. So you guys will get this. Tips for productivity for my team, right? Like, keep everybody updated. What's going on? What is the main objective of the house, right? Like, I'd let my team know, hey, we got to be done by this house tomorrow. We don't have time to mess around, right? So everybody knows what that end game goal looks like. After we did our walkthrough and we kind of all seen how many categories we had and whatnot, I'm telling my team at that point when people are going and starting to start in their rooms, I'm letting them know, hey, we're going to put electronics in this office. I visualize a table over there in the master bedroom. This is how I visualize this. We're going to pull these things into here, right? I'm doing that for every area of the house. So I'm communicating with the team. I'm letting them know as soon as I've thought of it in my brain, right? Of what this execution is going to look like, how we're going to get through this stuff, who's going to do what in what room, right? Um, really keep your areas clean and organized, right? When I would like walk around and kind of check in on my staff, this is why I want you to go clockwise and kind of go left to right, top to bottom. Because if I'm just like walking by, like I don't want to interrupt your flow and stop you if I don't have to. But I also want to be able to walk by and high level see that there's some production happening in that room, right? And so if I do it a couple of times and I'm like, wow, it looks like they're still standing in the same spot, like I don't see any difference that's happened within the last hour or whatnot, or if I'm there kind of observing and I'm seeing them start to kind of bounce around a little bit in that area, or I can see it if they've processed, like I can start to see how they've processed around. I'm gonna like redirect them, right? At that point, I would tell them, take a break, take a 5-10 minute break, recollect and gather yourself, right? Like clear out your bags of trash, clear out your bags of donation if you have full ones. Like kind of take a couple of seconds to just reorganize yourself, because if you're working in the chaos, it's just getting harder for you to see through it, right? And so as the manager, I'm trying to be hyper aware of that. So my team's not spending more time what I would call chasing their tail in a room, not, feeling like they're hitting a wall. I don't want them stuck at that wall for 20, 30, 40 minutes or an hour. I want them to redirect as quick as possible. So, look, if it needs you taking a 5 or 10 minute break, get out of this room. Don't go interrupt everybody else, but just get out of this room, clear your mind for a second, come back in, and you'll be rejuvenized and you'll be able to start attacking it, like you were before you hit that wall. So that's keynote right there for you guys. Okay. Keep your work areas clean and organized. That's going to help you get through them faster. Start in a room and stay there until it's completed. We don't want to bounce around. We don't want to take this electronic that we found in the living room and take it to the office because that's where they're going to be staged. That's where Kat told me I was going to stage them, so I'm going to move it there right now. No, don't do that. It's just like, think about when you're driving a car, right? Like if you guys were gonna get in the car and drive to Arizona and come visit me out here, would you want to get in the car and drive on I-10 all the way here and drive 85 miles an hour, saving gas, wear and tear on your vehicle? Or would you like to take the back roads, the county roads, where we're going to fluctuate in speed? We're going to have red lights, we're going to have stop signs, we're going to have yield signs, we're going to have traffic, right? If we go that route, the back roads route, then we're wasting more energy, we're spending more gas. It's going to take us longer to get there. And our car, there's more wear and tear in our car. So that's very much like our bodies, right? Our bodies are the vehicle. If we're nonsense, like moving things around and exerting energy that's not necessary, it's going to slow us down. It's going to put us at this project longer than we need to. And I'm talking seconds here, but believe it or not, seconds add up to minutes, minutes add up to hours, hours adds up to overtime that they never want to pay. Owners don't want to have to pay overtime if they don't have to. As a manager, that overtime, paying time and a half, cut into my bonus, right? And so for me, that was my driving force. I'm trying to make money as a manager. I'm trying to make money for the business. And at the end of the day, the more money the client makes, the more money the owner makes, the more money that I'm going to make as the manager. That's where my mindset was. Limit that amount of times you're touching an item. Really, if you do it right, you guys really can do it in 2 steps if you don't have to touch it to price. That's not for everybody, but 2, 3 times max. Set a time expectation, right? Especially in like areas like laundry rooms, offices, bathrooms, guest bedrooms. Those rooms we cannot absorb a ton of amount of time in because there's not typically a ton of value in those areas. And so there is this element of we have to battle the time to make it look good, execute it, but also we have to compare that against the value that's going in each room, right? So I know that's probably hard right now in the beginning, but as you guys do more of these auctions or in-person sales, you will start to understand the value as you like walk into a room. And so if I'm looking at a room that only has a couple $100 of value, that team member has got to get that room processed quickly. Otherwise, I've already lost money on that room. Doesn't matter how I slice and dice it, right? It took me too long to get that room processed. So setting time expectations for your team so they know, all right, I need you out of this room in an hour. I need this hall closet done in 30 minutes, right? Otherwise, they just think they have all day and they don't. We just don't have that kind of time, right? My personal favorite. I never tolerated show and tell, right? I know that sounds very aggressive and rude, but I became numb to all the stuff in these houses, and you guys will too. But when there is a cool item that's unique and fun and you want to talk about it, I don't want to say don't talk about it, but there's a time and place to talk about it and to show it. That time and place for me was lunchtime. We all sat together as a team and had lunch together. And so at that point, we are showing and telling all the cool things that we found, things that we've never seen, things that we thought were going to make really great money or be a draw to the sale. Like these are things we need to know, but I don't need to know them when you're processing them. I don't need you to come interrupt what I'm doing, stop my flow, my rhythm and grind in order to just show and tell this item, right? Um, know your employees' strengths and play to those strengths, right? So not everybody can handle a high density room, right? I thrive in the high density rooms. I am a natural organizer, right? I organize and clean for therapeutic reasons, right? That is not for everybody. So I'm not going to put my highest anxiety team member in the highest density room, right? I'm going to put them in the smaller areas where they're going to feel like they're getting bigger wins faster, right? So that's going to be like the living room, the hall bathrooms, the garage or the laundry rooms, the hall closets, the guest bedrooms that really don't have a lot of stuff, maybe the offices that aren't so overwhelming, right? I'm not going to put them in a very high density area where they cannot look at this room in a quarterly basis and just focus on this quarter, then I'll focus on that quarter. We need to know what those strengths are of your employees and play to them. Um, and then be sure that you have all the right supplies that you guys are going to need at the house. My team had all their own kits. So it was their responsibility on Thursday to restock their kit and make sure they had everything that they needed for the following week. I carried around all the master kit stuff. So if they needed refills and stuff, then they would grab that out of my car because that just lived in my car forever. So those were some tips for productivity. Um, and here I had like things they must know for the job, right? So I was very anal retentive about wrapping cords. And I don't mean wrap it around the item. I mean, I want you to wrap the cord up and tie it up with its cord. Like use the cord to wrap the cord, right? I don't need you to have a rubber band. I don't know why people just cannot get that done without doing it. But wrapping that cord tightly so it's neat, making sure all price tags were taped on because again, we were doing multiple clients and so it's very very important that the price tags stayed on. And sometimes you have customers taking them off, but other times, depending on the item, they just didn't stick very well, right? So that tape kind of just reinforced it a little bit more. Um, Obviously taping it's not 100% proof. People can still peel the tape and the price tag off, but it's gonna take them longer now to do that, right? So it's just going to give you employees just a few more seconds to catch them in the act, in a sense. Um, and we never, I know you did see that seashell that had the price tag right in the middle of it, but typically we really were not trying to price right in eye line, like eyesight, right? We did that strategically. There was a reason for that. We would put the price tag like on the side or the back, or if it's like a small lightweight item, maybe on the bottom of it. And we did that because as consumers, we are window shopping first. And once we've decided in that window shop realm that, okay, yep, it checks all of our window shop boundaries, right? Now I'm going to commit to picking the item up to inspect it more, right? And so because we're so lazy as consumers, not always do we want to put the item back, right? The only time we're going to put it back is when we look at the price tag and it's not where we want it to be, right? And so we made them looking and finding the price the last thing, so that way we've hopefully committed them to keeping it at that point. I know that sounds really crazy and it's more of the psychological thing for consumers, but that's what we did. There was a method to that madness. All the remotes for all the electronics, we didn't tape on the top, we taped on the side so we could stack the electronics up. So I know that sounds stupid to have to tell people, but when you're staging 50 electronics and you only have one table to do it in, we got to go up. So if we're taping the remotes on the top, it makes it hard to stage those items vertically. All glassware needs to be cleaned. We clean it with Windex. We don't put it in the dishwasher because that's going to be time consuming. It's more touches than necessary. So, quickest way that I found to pound out cleaning stemware was honestly, I would take like a roll of paper towels in both hands or microfiber cloths because I was obsessed with those. And I would line up my glasses. So if I had like 8 pieces of stemware, I would line them up right next to each other and I would literally drench them with Windex. And then I'm picking them up one at a time with both of those paper towels or microfiber cloths in my hand, and I'm wiping them down like that. So I'm powered cleaning through all of those. So when it's sitting on my processing table, it's all cleaned and organized and it's all very shiny and pretty. All the furniture and small things must be dusted, it must be polished. Again, presentation is everything when it comes to an in-person sale, right? We're trying to tap into, whether you're aware of it or your consumers are aware of it, really you want to try to tap into all 5 of their senses if possible, right? So visually, aesthetically, right? All of these things matter. They might not matter to you, but they might matter to the next guy. Okay. And so for me, I'm trying to aim to please the most particularly anal retentive person out there. If I can aim to please them, then everybody else I feel like I just catch them along the way. Um, Never pile trash in plain view of the house, right? So always you want to put that onto the side of the house. So we never kept the trash at the house for sale day, but we don't want it to be an eyesore for the neighbors in the neighborhood. People will complain about that. We also don't want the clients that they're driving by to be able to see a massive pile of trash, right? Because that might get them to have concerns. They might start calling and panicking. If you've got a hoarder that can't let go, they might be coming back over and going through the trash, that sort of thing. So we always kind of kept it out of plain sight on the side of the yard. If there was a wall in the front, we would keep it low level, but hiding behind that front wall. We saved all the boxes, right? So as you guys are unboxing things, processing stuff, you're going to have all these boxes kind of left over. We were using them to like hold our categories and piles in, and then we would move those to the room. But again, once we staged those items and the boxes were empty again, we accumulated them in the hall bathroom, in the bathtub. And then on sale day, we took them out and we put them out there for like packing materials for the consumers. All soft items that we were donating went into white bags. Any breakable donations we would put in boxes. All trash would go in black bags. Again, if we've got broken glass items or sharps, those are going into a box that are deemed trash worthy. typical items that we're saving for the clients. You guys probably know most of these already from the auctions, but like family photos or memorabilia, that's going to stay. We always put it in a closet in the house, and the family members, that's where we told them we left it. The real estate agents, we just left that stuff at the house. Personal papers like tax documents, social security, any, you know, documents for vehicles that we had to sell or anything like that, we would keep at the house or we would keep with us personally. Household items like extras, like tile sometimes or carpet or paint that went with the house, we would leave all of that with the house. And then any keys that we found, remotes to the ceiling fans, we never left those out on sale day, right? All of that sort of stuff we put into a drawer in the hall bathroom because nobody was allowed to go into the hall bathroom, just so we didn't have to worry about them getting lost or taken or misplaced on sale day. Okay. Let me see. And then we had like a donation checklist that was pretty typical of every house. These are the things that automatically we're donating, right? And then there are those items every week that were left over that we would kind of put back onto this list if they were consistently there every week, year after year, or I mean, week after week. All right. And I think that is it for the sort and organize one. Then I also have one that is for the processing guide as well. So like what's the next steps from the estate sale? So that's that. So after you've processed, then we're going to go into the pre-staging, the staging, and the pricing. All right. And then here's some more of those additional training guides that are out there and available for you. So the pricing guide, there's some top brands that you guys should be aware of. And then there's another guide for steps to pricing and how to price sort of effectively. And this is really for like the researched items that you guys need to do. And then there's, here's the lineup numbers that we have for you guys. Here are some of the like bulk pricing sheets that we would have. Here's the sold table, are you a reseller looking for inventory? These were signs that we were putting up to try to draw people in. All right, guys, that is it for me. What you got? Any questions?
Wow, that's a lot of information. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Where can we get, well, first, can you send us, I know this is being recorded, but can you also send us the presentation so that we'll have the links and whatnot?
Yeah, I can send you that so you have all that. I can also
Okay.
send you, I have this like, again, this is like back in 2018 or 2019 when I did this, but I had like one day I finally was like, I'm gonna pre-record. And I have like what the house looked like before we started, and then I do like a video every day at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
there's like 4 or 5 videos. I don't have the final one. I could never find it all these years later, but I can also send you guys those if you want like a little bit of video to go to action. So I organically back then just did this and walked through and kind of explained my process, but now you can visualize the pre-staging that happened, the holding tables that are holding the staged items still, like, so I can send you that as well if you want to kind of
Yeah.
a little that into play.
That'd be amazing. Yes. And then all of these what I would call them like printables or whatever that were on that page are they I can't find things on Fran Connect very easily, but I assume they're on Fran Connect.
They are, yeah. I'll email them to
Okay.
you. And then I'll send you the link
Okay.
also, like where you can find them in Fran Connect. So then if you just click on that link, it'll just take you right there to them.
Oh, that'd be perfect. Yes, that's awesome because I want to do a lot more processing of all of this information. And then I'm sure I'll have 35 million questions on Monday when we get started.
Yeah, let me know. And then we still have, I think, Thursday next week or Wednesday that we're going to kind of walk through with the furniture pricing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
for
yeah, let
sure.
me know. Just shoot me text next week or, get on a call with me or whatever if you guys have questions or just clarification. I'd rather you ask and do it flawlessly this first time out and have a good experience versus not, because I love it.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm excited. This is definitely the best one we could have, like the best opportunity for us to do it without being overwhelmed. So I'm excited for a good experience.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. All right. Well, it was nice having you guys all here. Hopefully, I didn't overwhelm you or talk too fast or.
it's good. It's good.
Okay.
It's all good.
Good.
You're a genius.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you, Sheree.
Thanks
You
so
are
much.
welcome, guys. Have a great rest of your day. I will talk to you later.
Okay, thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.